Greetings everybody, Rob here from Sage Tower Games, and I'm bringing you, yes, another video of the Lost Omens Ancestry Guide for Pathfinder 2nd Edition. You may have seen some of my other videos where we went over the 15 new ancestries that were added to the game. But that wasn't all that was added, no. We have a bunch of other new heritages for the ancestries that we currently have already in the game. So this video, we'll be talking about those, looking at them, and kind of seeing what we think about those. There's quite a few of them, but I'll just be going over the specific new heritages and not doing full reviews of the races themselves. So without further ado, let's hop right in and see what we got here. So the first section is the Catfolk, and we're going to go with the Liminal Catfolk. So, you cast Detect Magic as an occult cantrip. You gain a +1 bonus to occultism, to recall knowledge, for creatures that are outside the material plane. I mean, that's okay. I mean, let's be honest, Detect Magic, probably whoever your spellcaster is will have that. Very rarely does that kind of like not have that in play. And the +1 bonus to occultism is okay to recall creatures. Again, it's helpful, maybe not the greatest choice overall. Flexible Catfolk. You're very flexible. You don't treat tight spaces as difficult terrain when you're squeezing, and you get a +1 bonus when you're trying to escape. As we've kind of seen in the Ancestry Guide, there's a lot of new heritages that have these like similar like squeezing type traits to them. So this is just added to the Catfolk. The +1 when trying to escape is pretty useful, but then again it also depends on when you wanna like how much you're actually grappled. So it's better than the first one, I would say. The next one we have for the Catfolk is the Sharp-Eared Catfolk. You gain a +2 circumstance bonus to locate undetected creatures that you could hear within 30 feet with a seek action. And as long as you're aware of a creature via sound, once per round your ear can help you point out the creature to all allies as a free action. This one is probably the best of the three. +2 to try and locate undetected enemies as long as you can possibly hear them. And then you can also point them out to your allies for free because of your ears. Well, I think that is, of the three that we've seen, that's the best one so far. And definitely a really cool one, especially for the roleplay perspective of your ears kind of like, you know, turning one way like how cats do. They kind of turn around to like pick up sounds. So that one is really solid. Next batch we're going to hop into is the Orc. The battle-ready Orc. You become trained in Intimidation, and you gain the Intimidating Glare skill feat. This one is, I think, pretty standard. I mean, you're an Orc. Intimidation, Intimidating Glare, all good things to probably add to it. I guess if you don't get it from like some other way, this is a free way to get it. I mean, it's not. I can't say anything good or bad about it. Pretty standard. I would say that's like standard run of the male type one. Grave Orc. You gain resistance to negative damage equal to half your level and a +1 saving throw bonus against necromancy effects. That's pretty good. You don't see many negative damage resistances floating around. You don't see that kind of, depending on what you're fighting, you know, it may or may not come into play, but I think if you can get Grave Orc to actually matter, that's a really big deal. Kind of like how we've seen a lot of the cold resistance ones, this one's pretty solid. Winter Orc. You become trained in survival, and you treat environmental cold effects as if they're one step or less so extreme. You don't get cold resistance though, which would have made this really good. So of the three Orc ones, this is probably the weakest one, unless you're specifically playing in one when the environmental cold effect would come into play. If you're playing in like an Irisen type, area, or someplace up, where it's really cold, that might make sense. But outside of that, you might not get as much traction as you would from like even the Grave Orc or the Battle Ready Orc. So, but still a good way to kind of, make your Orc more distinct. Hobgoblin. I've been hearing some stuff about Hobgoblins. Shortshanks Hobgoblin. You gain the right feet, and you are not flat-footed while you climb. That's both things that I feel like don't matter, to be honest. The right feet, may come into play, but probably not that often. And flat-footed while you're climbing, in most cases, I've never seen it really matter that much. But if you're climbing in a situation when you're being attacked, bad things might be happening in that point. Let's just be real. That one's not really that exciting. Steelskin Hobgoblin. Your flat check to recover from persistent physical, including bleed, energy or poison damage is DC 13 or DC 8. So 2 less on your bleeds. That's pretty good. That's a pretty good one. I think that's a solid one. Can't go wrong with that one. Like I said, I can't really say anything different. That's better than the Shortshank ones. I'll say that for sure. This next batch, and it's quite a batch, is for the Leshies, and we got 5 new Leshy heritages. Someone in Paizo really likes the Leshies. So, the Cactus Leshy. Spines cover your body and gain a spine unarmed attack that deals 1d6 piercing damage. It's just it's still an unarmed attack, and I don't really see Leshies. Well, it could be okay. Could be cool if you want to play Cactus, I guess. But again, these kind of like ones that give you unarmed attacks, really, unless they can kind of build into your actual stats and stuff, don't really jump out at me as being overly crazy. Fruit Leshy. This one I know quite well a bit because my player in my Age of Ashes campaign, I allowed him to switch to this. So essentially you just grow fruit on your body, and if they eat it, they can gain extra hit points. So it's 1d8 plus 1d8 for every 2 levels above your first level. So every odd level. So just an extra way to heal. This one, if you're playing a healing type of character, like a Leshy Druid, this is probably a solid one if you're going to be the healer for the group. Having this and Goodberry as 2 options to heal just kind of really piles on the healing, and that's outside of using medicine. So this one's really good. Lotus Leshy. You can walk on the surface of water or still water and non-damaging liquids at half speed. And you can attempt to walk along the surface of flowing water, but that does require an acrobatics check. So again, if enough water is going to come into play, then that is worth it. If it's not going to come into play, you lose. It's just, you look cool. It's a Lotus. Can't go wrong with that. But overall, I feel like there won't be much else there. But I think it's okay. Maybe I'll put it on similar line of like the Cactus one. Useful. Root Leshy. You gain 10 hit points instead of 8 from your Ancestry. Okay, more hit points. Always good. You can go without sunlight for 2 weeks before you begin to starve. That's okay if you're having like a deep dungeon crawl or like an underdog, you know, like an underground type campaign where you might not see the sun for some time, then that might be helpful. You get a +2 bonus to your fortitude or reflex against shove or trip. Alright. And same thing against anything that makes you try to knock you prone. Alright, so you're a bit more sturdier. That one's pretty good. Overall, the 10 hit points, the ability to kind of be on the ground without having to worry about getting sunlight, and just being more hardy. I think that's an okay one. I mean, I don't think it's as good as fruit, but it's still pretty solid. Seaweed Leshy. You gain a swim speed of 20 feet and can always breathe underwater. However, your land speed is reduced by 5. So 20 land, 20 swim. Now this is an okay one. As we've seen in some of the ancestries, especially the Azaketi ancestry, the Undyne ones, there's a lot of focus on underwater themes or like swimming, breathing underwater. This one kind of fits in with that. I also think the idea of being a seaweed Leshy is kind of insanely cool looking. And the art for that must be crazy. But I think that one again it's highly situational, but when you do have that situation come into play, it's good. Just like the leaf Leshy, which we have currently, you know, where it kind of helps you absorb fall damage. Well, it may come into play rarely, but this, you know, pretty good. I still say fruit's probably the best. Root. Which I say probably fruit, root, seaweed, cactus, lotus. Kobolds. Cave climber kobolds. It sounds cool. You live in a vertically oriented home. You gain a combat climber skill feat. And you can use your clawed feet and tail to climb, leaving your hands free. And if you succeed on the climb, you critically. So same thing to the other one that gave us the climb. I forget. I think it was the Catfolk one, or either the Catfolk or the Hobgoblin one. If you're climbing, I mean, this gives you combat climber as a skill feat. So I don't know how often you intend on climbing, but if you're gonna be climbing a lot, it's real solid. Anything that gives you critical success automatically, always good. Tunnel Flood Kobold. Swim speed of 15 feet. Nice. Again, similar to what we just talked about with the Seaweed Leshy, if it comes into play with the like a water campaign, it's a really good choice. Otherwise, it's just flavor at that point and doesn't give you any sort of practical use to it. Our next section is the Lizardfolk. Your body is light with flaps of skin. As long as you can act, you can open the flaps to slow any fall just enough to avoid taking damage. And this also leads you to the Eruxi Glide, which is a Lizardfolk feat. You glide slowly towards the ground, 5 feet down, and up to 25 feet forward through the air. As long as you spend at least one action gliding each round and haven't yet reached the ground, you remain in the air. Okay, so you can glide a bit, keep yourself still in the air, and if you haven't hit the ground yet, you can just kind of keep floating in the air as you're coming down. That's a pretty cool one. That's just cool. Look, I mean, the ideas of what's like being high above and like floating around and slowly coming down, pretty cool. Woodstalker Lizardfolk. You move easily through the thick forest and jungle. You can always take cover when you're in a forest or jungle. You gain the terrain stalker feat even if you're not trained in stealth, and you must choose underbrush as your chosen terrain. Okay, I've mentioned this a bit in my videos talking about like the ranger and stuff. All like the forest terrain and like taking cover stealth. It's good. It's useful, similar to everything else. But it's really, like this would be good if you're gonna be in the jungle. I wouldn't do this if you were like in an urban campaign or like a major city like that. It may not be. You may just stick out. But if there's gonna be like a vast jungle exploration or like Wangi Expanse type place, something where like the forest or jungle is gonna be a big part of it, definitely a solid choice. Our next ones are for the rat folk. So you have a thicker coat, gaining you cold resistance equal to half your level, and you treat environmental cold effects as if they're one step less extreme. So my question is, for the winter orc, you became trained in survival, but for the snow rat, you gain cold resistance. I think cold resistance is better than trained in survival. So snow rat, in that sense, is better than the winter orc, in my opinion. So really solid. Like I mentioned with the winter orc, giving you cold resistance, always a good choice. Environmental cold effect helps if you're in a cold campaign, but if you're not, at least you still have the cold resistance to kind of benefit and help you. So the tunnel rat, you gain the quick squeeze feat, even if you're not trained for it, and tight spaces don't require the squeeze action. So similar to the flexible catfolk, very similar. This allows rats to squeeze around. Nothing too exciting. I'm not really thrilled with all the squeeze stuff. It's just kind of there, but it's okay. And then we have the Tengu. In addition to a beak, your mouth also features a number of vicious pointed teeth. Your beak on arm attack gains the deadly D8 trait. Interesting. And what's Dog Fang Bite? You can swing your beak to slash your foes. Your beak gets the versatile slashing. If you're gonna be attacking with your beak as a Tengu, this one it kind of is cool. Gives you the deadly D8, and then you can always make it versatile in case of damage resistance and that kind of stuff. So alright. Then the Wave Diver Tengu, swim speed of 15 feet. I think I've mentioned this in all the previous times. Situational, swim speed, if it matters, that's great. And it gives you the Waxed Feathers, which you get a +1 against any saving throw that has a water effect. And you can become instantly dry in one action. I'm not sure. I mean, I understand like the concept of that, like in terms of like birds, but I'm trying to think when that would actually matter. Strange, but pretty cool. So those are all the new different ones that we got in the terms of new ancestries for the old ancestries. So the ones that I personally like, I think Grave Orc is pretty good. I would say Steelskin Hobgoblin is also pretty good. The Fruit Leshy is also really good. The Cloud Leaper Lizardfolk is probably unique, special. Snow Rat is good, and I would say the Dogtooth Tengu is also a pretty unique one. Those are the ones that I think really jump out at me as being cool for what they do. I mean, some other ones are like cool, just thinking of like a Cactus Leshy sounds really cool, or a Seaweed Leshy sounds really cool. And the Sharp-Eared Catfolk, I forgot that one as well. The Sharp-Eared Catfolk is also one that I think is a solid choice. So, have you guys made any characters with these new heritages yet? If you did, let me know that in the comments below. Or if you just kind of, what are your thoughts on them? Do you think some of these are really good? Some of these are just, they missed the mark on them? What are your thoughts? So let me know down in the comments, and be sure to like this video and subscribe for more Pathfinder content. I'll be bringing it out as we get more and more content. Hopefully this may be the last video about the Ancestry guide. I don't want to like beat the book to death. Would be the, I believe, 5th video made from this set, from this one book. So, but we got a lot in it, so it was well worth it. Well worth it. So, without further ado, I'll thank you guys for watching, and I will see everybody next time. Thank you.